Hi, today we're going to cover translations. As I shared as we started the class, this unit is called Transformation, so this is Unit 3, and the chapter or unit is called Transformations. So I want you to put that on your notes. Another word for transformation is change. Okay, so just like you transform yourself in the morning when you come into school, you definitely look different than when you walk onto this campus. Okay, and that's called transformation. And we're going to cover 3 types of transformations: translations, reflections, rotations. We already covered dilation, and we'll do a little bit of review of that. That was from the last chapter. Okay, so let's begin with this first note, or day 1, called translation. Another word for translation is when you vertically and or horizontally move a figure. Another word that we use a lot is slide a figure. So you can also use that. The symbolic form that's going to be written down for you is as follows: X plus H and Y plus K. We'll talk a little bit more about that format, but let's just talk about what X represents, or actually, we know what X represents. Let's talk about the H. H represents how much you're going to move or slide, okay, in the horizontal position. Okay, so that's pretty fancy, saying horizontal. So do you remember that horizontal is left to or right? Sorry, it's coming out a little sloppy there, but that's left or right. Left or right. And the K is going to tell you where you're going to move or slide the figure up or down. Okay, so a little bit of picture would be, which way are you moving it? Left or right, or are you going to move it up or down? And that's what this number here is going to tell you. And this actually should be plus or a minus, and that should be plus or a minus. Okay? Because you could go left or right, which means left is negative, right is positive. Okay? And we'll talk a little bit more as we get into the graphs. The other important thing is take a look at this picture here. I want to make sure you understand that when you start with the figure and you decide to slide it up over to the right and slide it down, okay, so I'm moving it or sliding it, okay, and then I go down. This is called the pre-image, and this is called the image, okay? And then the way you know that you have the pre-image versus the image, this is before you start and this is after the move. There's a prime. There's a little like apostrophe above the letter or next to the letter. This little apostrophe is called prime. So you would call that like D prime. Okay? A prime, B prime, and C prime. That's how you know that that's the image. Okay? So, the directions for your lesson will be something like this. Look at the pre-image, and this is the pre-image. So let's go ahead and write that in there. Okay? Look at the pre-image and graph and label the image after a translation. Okay? And where do you get the information about how to translate something? Well, here it is. Do you mind boxing this in? Okay, this is what you're telling the original, which is here, to translate in this format. You're going to move all your X numbers by 5, and then you're going to move all your Y numbers by 1. And they're both positive, which means X goes to the right and your Y goes up. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to show you 2 different ways you can do this for a translation. The best way is to put it in a table, okay, and do a little algebra. So let's do that. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to put like a T table, okay, and this is going to be the pre, and this is just going to be the regular image. And the pre's already given to you. Did you notice that you had G, T, B written here? So sometimes they're going to give it to you here, and then you got to graph the pre-image, or sometimes they'll just give you the pre-image and you got to write down all the figures. They made it easy for us. We're going to go G, T, B. And the G is -3, -1. All I'm doing is just copying this information down. This is -1, -1. Okay, and then this is a -3, -5. Okay, and the reason I teach my students to do this because it's easier for you to look at it in this order than laid out this way, because you're going to have to add 5 to all these x's, and you're going to have to add 1 to all the y's. So right here, I'm going to put 5, 1. Okay, it doesn't mean it's a point, it just means that this is what you're going to add, and this is what you're going to add. Okay, and right now they're both positive, so it makes it a little easier. And if you don't mind, I need you all to get used to just putting parentheses, comma, parentheses. Okay, so the 5 and the -3 is a 2. Remember we practiced this on Tuesday of last week. The 1 and a -1 gives you 0. And if something that you can't do, like I'm doing, you get your calculator out. Again, here's a 5, I'm getting it from right here, I'm adding it to the -1, that leaves you with a 4. Okay, and then finally the 1 and the -1 is another 0. And we go to B. 5 and a -3 is a 2, and a -5 and a 1 is a -4. Okay, so this is now the new figure, which is called image. This is the pre-image. Pre-image is already drawn. They ask you to graph and label the image. Okay, so let's do it. Here's the new guy. One thing I want to point out is I'm going to take a green marker here, and I'm going to highlight that I have this X and Y direction going on. Okay, and we're going to go ahead, this is your X, this is your Y coordinate system. I just wanted to point out. So you might have to darken it a little bit. So notice I'm going to plot. So this is your 0, 0 start point. G is going to go 2, 0. So make it really big. And I'm going to go ahead and label it with a G prime. Okay? And then your next value, T, is going to be a 4, 0. Sitting pretty close by. Okay? And he is T prime. And finally, B is going to go 2, -4, which ends up being 1, 2, 3, 4, right there. And we're going to label him B prime. Okay? And so, sorry that I have the G and the T kind of going to be in our little triangle. Okay? This is the result. So let's summarize what we did. We started with this guy. This is called the pre-image. I'm going to color him in. He's in blue. Okay? And I went over and I translated this shape 5 units to the right. So if you double trace yourself, you went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 1 unit up. Okay? So we did it both ways to kind of double check, but this blue is now translated 5 units to the right and 1 unit up from the original. And this guy is called the image. Okay? So that's the lesson for today. We're going to go ahead and just go really fast through number 2, 3, 4, just to give you another practice. So number 2, again, you can do it with my little T table, which is very important to do it that way, or you can do it manually, but it gets a little more difficult because you have to kind of keep your finger on the J and look here. I'm going to move 4 to the right, and I'm going to move how many down? 4 down. Okay, so this is the X direction, this is the Y direction. That's what I got from here. Okay, so it's kind of a good idea to give yourself directions. Here's J. Again, I'm going to look over here. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to do a temporary dot so I don't get lost. And then it says I'm going to go 4 down. 1, 2, 3, 4. That becomes your J prime. Now, I don't know if you noticed, right away it's like, he's too close to my eye. But this is why I like the T-tables. Keeps everything organized. But let's keep going. A is going to go 4 to the right and another 4 down. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that becomes your A prime. And last but not least, the I. 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we're going to go 4 down. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? So here is a, that's your I prime. And as you can see, the triangle looks pretty decent. Okay? So you go like this. You go like this. One thing I will warn you is you're not done. I mean, that's 50% of your problem when you get your quiz or exam, but they're going to want to know what these points are. Okay? So I'll write it down here for you. J, A, and I. Okay? And I'm going to go ahead and do the primes. Okay? Just because I've run out of room. Okay? And I'm going to tell you that they're going to ask you to do both. They're just going to give you a picture. They're going to give you this part. And again, I should probably highlight that for you. This is how you know what you're translating. Okay? So, the J, what's the location? Well, here again, here's the problem statement. Where's the origin? Isn't it kind of hard to see your origin? He's right here. So I'm going to make him nice, big, and red. And from here, I can see that this is J prime is 1, negative 1, 1. Negative 1, 1. And your A prime is negative 1, negative 3. You see what I mean by it starts getting a little sloppy? 1, 2, 3 for the I prime and negative 2. Okay? So this is the image. I'm going to box it in because that's what we're looking for on the exam. Okay? So I hope that helped. I'm double checking my answer key and I get everything right. Number 3. Okay, this one's a little smaller guy to operate with. Okay, and again, using these values here, ask yourself, you're being asked to move every single point plus a 2, and in the y direction plus a 3. Well, what does that mean? Well, this means 2 to the right, and this means 3 up. So let's start with x so we can kind of keep it all clear. It says move 2 up, 1, 3. So there's your x prime. Please, one at a time. M, how many to the right? 2. How many up? 3. That's going to be your M prime. And you can look back at the original and it kind of looks the same. J, 2 to the right and up 3. And E, 2 to the right and up 3. And of course, those end up pretty close. And look at how I've already kind of gone back on what I asked you to do. And now you have to be very careful that this is the G prime and this is the E prime. Okay? So grab your ruler. You're welcome to use your ID card. Some of you can just kind of sketch it across. I'll show you a tip. When I don't have a ruler, I just do dash. And what ends up happening, it looks pretty decent. Okay? And then I follow back. All right? So, can you tell me, class, quickly, who's the pre-image? That's right. So the pre-image, if I were to quiz you, is that one. And how do you know which one's the image? It's the guy with all the sticks, the primes. Okay? All right, so you did number 3. Now let's do number 4. So number 4, again, I'm going to use a table just to get you in the habit of doing that. And we're just going to copy all these down. E, X, let's go ahead, 0, 1. And X, 3, 3. And the V is 4, 0. And the Z is 2, negative 4. Okay, what they're asking you to do, what's the transformation? You've got to go negative 4, negative 1 on all your values. So this is my pre. And now I'm going to come over here using algebra. Okay, E prime becomes negative 4 and a 0. Okay, did you see how I did that? Negative 4 and a 0 is negative 4. 1 and a negative 1 is a 0. Again, just grab your calculator if this is difficult for you. -4 and a 3 is a -1. 3 minus 1 is a +2. And here's a v prime. That becomes 0, and that becomes a -1. And finally, oops, I didn't leave room for my z prime. This is going to be a -2 and a -5. Okay, so if you can't read that, that's -4, 0, -1, 2, 0, -1, okay, -2, -5. Let's go over how I got that. I went to the original. I went to the rule that they gave me, and I'll highlight that in blue. This is your transformation rule or command or instruction. They said to subtract 4 from all your x's and subtract 1 from all your y's. So that's what I did. 0 minus 4 is a -4. 1 minus 1. 1 minus 1 is a 0. 3 minus 4 is a -1. 3 minus 1 is a 2. 4 minus 4 is a 0. 0 minus a 1 is a -1. 2 minus 4 is a -2. And a -4 minus a 1 is a -5. Okay, and then you got to go plot it. So it should look something like this. And I'm going to get my lucky red pen and go right in there to make sure I know where 0, 0 is. And I'm going to plot E prime. E prime is -4. 1, 2, 3, -4, and a 0. He sits right here. I'm going to label him E prime. Okay, X prime, -1, +2. Okay, and that's your X prime. And then V is 0, -1, lands right here. That is your V prime. And finally, Z is -2, -5. Yep, down here. And that's your Z prime. Okay, so I'm going to quickly grab this because I want to go on to your next type of translation. Okay, so let me show you what that looks like. And we'll go on to the second page of our notes. I'm going to skip number 5. I'm going to skip number 6. When you get a chance to work on it, okay, I'm going to just show you what it should look like when you're done. And notice how what I did is went back to the old way and said, X, you move it to the right 1, Y, you move down by 1. Okay, so you can see my little arrows, and you can see my labels. Okay, so this is a V prime, that's your D prime, that's your Q prime, and that's your R prime. Okay, number 6 should look something like this. Okay, your X's, when it doesn't have a number, means X never moves. So this guy is the same, and the Y, you just go up. You can see my little orange arrow, up 4, up 4, up 4, up 4. Y is up or down? The answer is Y is up 4. Okay, so let's go to number 7. That's the second type of problem that you have to understand. What they've done here is they've given you both of them, the before and after, the pre-image and the image, and they want you to write the rule that describes this translation. Okay, so I'm going to blow this up as best as possible so you can really see what I'm doing. See where it says X and then X prime? X is a pre-image, X prime is an image. So you start with the X and you end with the X prime. You start with the C and you end with the C prime. The question is, what did you do to your X and what did you do to your Y? So here, this X, what did you do? You moved it 1 unit over. So would you say you could write something like that for the X? And you're correct. But you have to be sure that you start here. This is the first guy. And that's why it's so important to know the difference between the X and the X prime, C, C prime, L, L prime, and J, J prime. Okay, pre-image is this guy. Okay? Now, the other thing that you want to notice about this is the Y. Do you go any different direction in the Y at all? Does X prime move from the X up or down at all? No. So, no movement. No move. So Y is +0. But do you have to put the 0? Nope. You just put the y. So the rule is like this, x comma y. I'm going to shrink it down so it's all together. X comma y with an arrow pointing that I'm going to add a 1 to everybody, and then the y just stays the same. And that's it. Do you like that? It's number 7. Leave it there for a second. Or you can hit pause if you need more time. And let's go to number 8. Okay? 8, they're kind of overlapping each other, aren't they? Okay? So let's start again with the W. Now if you want, you can go to 0, 0, and you can write down what W is. It is negative 1. Oops, let me start over. It is negative 1, negative 1. See that? Negative 1, negative 1. And then we're going to go to the W prime. And he is negative 2, negative 2. So let's try it again now with A. A is 1, 1. 1, negative 1. Sorry. 1, negative 1. Let's look at A prime. A prime went 0. We didn't move at all on the 0. Okay, but he came down negative 2. All right? And then let's look at S. I don't know if you're seeing the pattern, okay? But to get to 1, to get from Y to the next one, I am moving this direction, negative 1, and I'm moving this direction, negative 1 every time. And notice, negative 1, add the negative 1, you get a negative 2. Negative 1, you add a negative 1, you get a negative 2. Okay, 1, you add a negative 1, you get a 0. Negative 1, let me add that right there. Okay? So it works. All right? So, 1, negative 1 is 0. Negative 1, negative 1 is negative 2. So that's your rule. Okay? You are minusing a 1 on the x direction and I'm minusing a 1 on the y direction. Okay? And number 9, a little fun one, and it's easier to read because they're so separated. Take a look at your J. In the x direction, ask yourself. So put those questions. What did you do to the x? What did you do to the y? So to move from J to J prime, I went from here to here. What did you do in the x direction? Nada. Nothing. Okay? So right away I can say x plus 0. Okay, how about the y? Oh, sorry, I messed up. That was the x. How about the y? So the y, what did I do? I was here, and then I went here. Well, what did you do? You went down. 1, 2, 3, 4. You went down 4. So how do you write that? Y minus 4. And here's x plus 0. But do I really need the 0? No. Okay, if you leave it like that, I'm good. So during the exam quiz, if it's multiple choice, be looking for that. Okay? So again, the rule is x, y was translated as follows. Okay? Not so bad. And number 10, what did we do to the x? Let's play with D. D, I went 1, 2, 3 to the right. And how many did I go down? Negative 3. So x comma y, and we translate it as follows. X plus 3 comma y minus 3. And that's your answer to that. Okay? So, give you a little bit more time to take a look at those. Again, we're looking for rules. This is the reverse. Okay? And that concludes our day 1 notes for translations. Thanks for hanging out with me. And have a good day.